Think about the last time you tried to say something that really mattered to you, and the other person's eyes drifted to their phone before you even finished. That small sting you felt? It has a name. Alfred Adler, the psychologist who spent his life studying what makes us feel whole, believed that the deepest wound a person can carry isn't rejection. It's the quiet feeling of not mattering to anyone. We spend our whole lives learning to speak, but almost none of us are ever taught how to listen. Not really. Not the kind of listening that makes another person feel like, for a moment, they are the only person in the room. Here's a small story. A man walks into a doctor's office and says, "I've been having this sharp pain in my chest. Some days I can barely breathe." The doctor, eyes on the screen, types for a moment and says, "At your age, that's usually acid reflux or mild heart strain. Take this for 2 weeks." 2 minutes, prescription in hand. The man goes home, still afraid and still in pain. Because the real pain wasn't in his chest. It was grief. His wife had died 3 months earlier, and no one had asked him how he was actually doing. Now imagine a different doctor, one who stops typing, turns his chair, looks the man in the eye and asks, "When does the pain usually come? What's going on in your life right now?" And suddenly, the man finds himself saying words he didn't know he needed to say. It happens at night, since my wife passed. The first doctor heard sound. The second one listened to a person. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller instead of seen, you already know exactly what we're talking about today. So why is real listening so rare? Adler had an answer, and it's not a flattering one. Most of us aren't actually listening for the other person. We're listening for ourselves. Adler called it striving for significance. This deep, mostly unconscious drive to matter, to be seen as capable, worthy, important. It's not a flaw, it's human. But when that drive goes unchecked, it quietly hijacks our conversations. Let's look at 3 levels of listening, and notice, gently, without judgment, where you might recognize yourself. Level 1. Self-centered listening. This is when someone's words become a doorway back to our own story. A friend says, "This month has been brutal at work. My manager keeps rejecting my drafts. I feel like I'm failing." And instead of staying with that, we say, "Oh, that's nothing. My boss made me redo an entire project last week. I've been up until 2 a.m. every night." Nobody meant harm here. But somewhere in that exchange, one person's pain quietly became a stage for someone else's. Adler would say this is significance seeking in its most ordinary, everyday form. We're all just trying to prove we matter too. Level 2. Defensive listening. Here, we're not looking for a story to tell. We're looking for a mistake to correct. A partner comes home exhausted, looks at the mess in the house and says, "You never help me with anything around here." And the other person, stung, snaps back, "That's not fair. I cleaned the kitchen yesterday. I drove the kids to school this morning. Don't say I never help." Technically, he's right, but he's just lost the entire point. Adler would call this private logic at work. Each person trapped inside their own internal courtroom, defending their own worth, unable to hear the actual message underneath. I am overwhelmed. I need you. Level 3. Listening with social interest. This is the level Adler considered the very foundation of psychological health. He had a word for it, in German, Gemeinschaftsgefühl, usually translated as social interest or community feeling. It's the capacity to set your own ego aside, just for a moment, and genuinely orient yourself toward another person's experience. Picture that same tired partner walking through the door. But this time, instead of noticing the mess and feeling accused, the other person notices the slumped shoulders, the tired eyes. They walk over, take their hand, and say, "Long day? I'm sorry the house is a mess. Sit down. Let me take care of dinner. No defense, no correction, just presence. That's not a personality trait some people are born with, and others aren't. Adler was firm about this. Social interest is not innate. It is learned and practiced, like a muscle, which means the ability to listen this way isn't something you either have or don't. It's something you can build. One more example. Outside of romantic relationships, in the workplace, a client calls furious. What kind of service is this? Delivery was 2 hours late. It ruined my entire conference. At level 2, the instinct is to defend. I'm sorry, but it left our warehouse on time. Traffic wasn't our fault. At level 3, the response sounds different. That sounds incredibly frustrating. It sounds like the delay directly disrupted something important for your event today. I'm truly sorry. Can you tell me what happened? 9 times out of 10, the anger softens the moment a person feels their pain has been named, rather than argued with. So how do we actually build it? Here are 3 small practices. Not techniques to perform, but small acts of courage, because Adler believed courage was the root of every psychologically healthy choice. Practice 1. The 3-second pause. The next time someone finishes speaking, resist the urge to respond immediately. Just count, silently. 1, 2, 3. That tiny pause does 2 things. It stops you from reacting out of old defensive habit, and it quietly tells the other person, I'm actually still with you. I'm not just waiting for my turn. Practice 2. Reflecting, not defending. When someone brings you a complaint, resist the instinct to explain yourself first. Instead, try naming what you heard. If your child comes home and says, I hate school, I'm never going back, the instinct is to lecture. Education matters. You have to go. Try asking instead, something happened today that made school feel really hard. Can you tell me about it? Practice 3. Asking instead of fixing. Adler believed that encouragement, not correction, is what allows a person to find their own courage to face difficulty. You don't need to fix their problem. You need to be the safe place they bring it to. Here's the quiet truth underneath everything we've talked about today. Every person you'll ever meet is carrying the same invisible hope to matter, to be seen as more than background noise in someone else's day. When you choose to lower your own need to be right, to be heard first, to win the moment, and instead offer someone your full, undivided presence, you're not just being polite. You are practicing one of the deepest forms of courage Adler ever described. So today, in your next conversation, with a colleague, a partner, a child, try turning down the volume of your own inner voice. Just a little. Open your ears. And open something quieter than your ears. You might be surprised how much closer people feel to you, simply because, for once, someone finally listened.